This has been a very interesting week, very special week, because Thursday and Friday we celebrated Rosh Chodesh Kislev. Kislev, we know that wonderful month that ushers in that holiday, the winter holiday called Hanukkah, the Feast of Lights. And it's so interesting that we have the Feast of Lights this year, December 22nd, the day after we have what we call the shortest day of sunshine. And so we have, when we think of that we have such a long evening, we now have 8 days of beautiful light to shine in our house, to enliven us, and to make us feel so warm and good. So that's Kislev, this wonderful month of Kislev. Thursday was Thanksgiving, a national holiday for us to give thanks for all the blessings that we have received. And on a personal note, that Shalom and I are very thankful that we moved to Tustin, and we moved to such a wonderful, vibrant congregation as Congregation B'nai Israel, with, as I said, a vibrant, warm congregation with a very distinguished rabbi in Rabbi Eli Spitz. And we are thankful, and I want to thank all of you in the last 5 years who have welcomed us so warmly and treated us like friends, and more than friends, even as members of your family. So for us, I want to thank you all here today. Thank you. Yesterday was November 29th. In Hebrew, 29 is Kaftet. And so yesterday we remember that on November 29th, 1947, the United Nations General Assembly voted in favor of the partition plan. Remember, there were 33 nations voted for it. And there was such exuberance and feeling and dancing in the streets of Israel when they announced that partition plan. But today is November 30th. And November 30th is the day that we commemorate the expulsion of Jews from Arab lands and Iran. And I received, the reason I'm also mentioning this is I received a letter from, actually it was an email from Beit Tfutzot, the Museum of our Jewish people in Tel Aviv, reminding us that they have a program to commemorate November 30th. That the state of Israel has decided in legislation to mark this day the departure and expulsion of Jews from Muslim countries and Iran. And it's symbolic, coming as it does immediately after the 29th of November, the date when the United Nations voted in favor of the partition. As a result, and I'm reading this from this letter that I got, as a result of this decision, waves of opposition and persecution of Jews arose in those countries, and many Jewish communities in Muslim countries were forced to leave. It is important to note that the vast majority of the Jews left as refugees who had abandoned their homes and possessions in their countries of origin and left, some with only a handful of possessions. Some left openly, others fled with the assistance of Jewish underground organizations that were set up, especially in Iraq. In some cases with the cooperation of agents from Israel who came to those countries to help out. There were instances in which some family members immigrated to Israel, while others, particularly the elderly and the sick, remained in the country of origin. The majority of those people came to Israel in its early years of independence. And the reason I got this is a special program for principals and teachers in our Hebrew schools to remember to teach this. When we teach Jewish history, not to forget these Jews from Arab countries. So that's why I received it, because I still teach Jewish children. Okay. Now I'm here to speak to you a few sentences about the Parsha, which was Toldot, if we remember, Toldot. In my judgment, the key person in this and last week and this week's Parsha is Rebekah. Last week we read that Abraham is concerned about finding a fitting wife for his son Isaac. He gives instructions to his servant to return to the place of Abraham's birth to bring back a wife for Isaac. His servant is eminently successful in his task. In the servant's first encounter at the well, Rebekah displays the characteristics which will be central to her throughout her life. Rabbi Adin Steinsaltz is arguably the greatest Jewish scholar of our times, and he calls Rebekah the white sheep of her family. She appears only in a few scenes in our Bible, each time displaying the same skills and positive characteristics. First, as a young girl drawing water. Second, as a pregnant woman going to seek out guidance from God concerning her painful pregnancy. And thirdly, arranging the deception of her husband Isaac in order to secure the blessing for Jacob, her son, instead of Esau, her firstborn, who was Isaac's favorite. In each of these scenes, the main factor is her ability to act decisively and with confidence. She displays a consistency, a certainty, and a commitment to what she believes is right. Arriving in the land of Canaan with her servant, upon seeing a young man who turns out to be Isaac in the field looking heavenward, she realized that he is a special person, and she knew what he was and what her role would be. As we are told, Isaac brought her into the tent of Sarah, his mother. He took Rebekah, and she became his wife, and he loved her. Thus was Isaac comforted after his mother. This is the first time in the Bible where it is written that a man loved his wife. In contrast to Isaac, she complements his personality in many ways. Fundamentally, Isaac is not one to make decisions, but he is a person that allows things to happen to him. In his first instance, in the binding of himself on the altar, he allowed himself to be bound and almost sacrificed. He does not go himself to seek a wife in this another instance, but a wife is brought to him. Later in their lives together, it was Rebekah who decided and acted with confidence, whereas Isaac somewhat hesitated and was really unsure of himself. When Rebekah was suffering with difficulties during her pregnancy, she acted alone to seek out God. When she is told by God that the younger of the twins that will be born will supersede the older, she keeps the information to herself. Rebekah always acted prudently and with finesse for the good of her husband, who was blind to the shortcomings of his son Esau, which would make Esau unfit to carry forward the covenant. Rebekah managed to achieve her goal without humiliating or dominating her husband. When Rebekah sent Jacob dressed as Esau to receive Isaac's blessing, she did it filled with trust and admiration for her husband Isaac, despite the deception. She saw Isaac as a righteous man and that his blessing would hold good, and so she did her utmost to assure that the right son, Jacob, got the blessing. Steinsaltz wrote that according to our sages, our matriarchs had prophetic powers, and Rebekah acted as a prophet. She had flashes of clarity consistent with what Maimonides describes about prophecy as a stroke of lightning revealing the route to be taken. In this sense, in all the crucial moments in her life, she had a clarity of vision greater than those around her. She realized that she had special qualities, or as I mentioned before, that she was the white sheep in her family. Or as they say in the Song of Songs, that she was the rose among the thorns. And her family was in moral decay. Her father, Bethuel, abdicated his role to his son Laban, who became the decisive figure in the family. Of the two branches of this family of Terach, Abraham's line grew very powerful and great, but the other side, that of Nahor, Abraham's brother, was deteriorating and depleting its resources, too preoccupied with pettiness as it sank into decay. Because no one was trustworthy in that family, she had to make her own quick decisions. Isaac, on the other hand, grew up surrounded by trustworthy people. He had a father of noble character, a loving mother, and faithful servants. His immediate world was for the most part peaceful and harmonious. He knew little of the world of evil and deceit. Therefore, he was an easy victim to being tricked by his wife and son. He took his children at face value. He considered Esau to be the good because he brought him food that he liked. Isaac could not see behind the facade. However, Rebekah was an expert in these matters. She recognized the faults of her father and brother in her son Esau. Our text doesn't say that Rebekah did not love Esau or that she hated him, only that she was more discerning than her husband Isaac. She was raised in a family that lived on the margin of society. She knew evil, but she wasn't corrupted by it. She would strive to do what was good and pure, and she saw that purity in Isaac, which bound her to him. She deceived him only in order to spare him error or injury. And so she never told Isaac that he was wrong in his assessment of his sons or that Esau was unreliable. As I intimated, she manipulated Isaac into blessing Jacob instead of Esau out of love for Isaac and to protect him from the emotional turmoil that would have resulted when he would have finally realized the error in his judgment. So Rebekah is the heroine of our story. Her life is a victory over her environment and her origins. She tried to adhere to what was good and to assure the continuity of the good line that began with Abraham. Shabbat Shalom.